In dialogues concerning natural religion, David Hume, or more precisely the fictional character that Hume created, Philo, um, is talking with some other people about the teleological argument, amongst other things, and he raises some criticisms of it. Um, but I've always viewed that those objections of his, of Philo's, as being minor reservations against pressing the teleological argument too far, and then he moves on quickly to something else, hoping that nobody will notice that what he has said has been largely irrelevant to the teleological argument per se, and that he has not really offered very good defeaters of the argument. So he talks about it, then he moves on without really dealing with it, and he actually ends up, I think, um, conceding the argument, or at least a large part of it. So I want to read a quote here from a book, An Introduction to the Philosophy of Religion, third edition by Brian Davies. Beginning on page 77, um, he says Hume's first point, and this is also from not just the dialogues, but also an inquiry concerning human understanding. All right, so quoting Davies, Hume's first point concerns what we can deduce from an effect. When we infer a particular cause for an effect, he says, we must proportion the one to the other, and can never be allowed to ascribe to any cause any qualities but what are exactly sufficient to produce the effect. So Hume's point, we don't, for example, have omnipotence when we look at the design in the world. Um, but um, I would say that that's okay. We don't have to have um, omnipotence for the teleological argument to work. Uh, it, it's it's proving that there is some type of designer, uh, which we would use the term God to describe. So the idea of a powerful designer, of an intelligent designer with great power, is consistent with that great intelligence and power being omnipotent. He may or may not be omnipotent, um, but at the very least we can say that agnosticism, both soft and hard agnosticism, and also atheism, are false. There is some type of deity. Now, Hume adds, if design needs to be explained, then explain it, but only by appealing to a design-producing being. To say that this being is God is to go beyond the evidence presented by design. Well, I don't think the teleological argument is really trying to say anything other than there is a design-producing being. However, this design-producing being, it's not a human being. It's not a humanoid being, for example, an extraterrestrial, because they're part of what is designed. So the designer would have to transcend what has been the individual designed things within the world. He has to be beyond that. So what do we call a being that is beyond the natural world, who has intelligence, who has great power? This can properly only be called God. Hume's second point hinges on the fact that the universe is unique. Quote, when two species of objects have always been observed to be conjoined together, Hume writes, I can infer by custom the existence of one wherever I see the existence of the other, and this I call an argument from experience." Unquote. But, Hume continues, the notion of inference cannot be invoked by supporters of theistic design arguments. Why not? Because, says Hume, the universe is unique and we therefore have no basis for inferring that there is anything like a human designer behind it. Quote, "Will any man tell me with a serious countenance," Hume asks, "that an orderly universe must arise from some thought in art, like the human, because we have some experience of it?" Hume adds, "To ascertain this reasoning, it were requisite that we had experience of the origin of worlds, and it is not sufficient surely that we have seen ships and cities arise from human art and contrivance." Unquote. So, this is a common argument today still, um, not just when Hume first raised it. Um, but I don't think it really carries much weight. There is only one world that we know of, only one universe, one cosmos. Um, However, we do see that individual things within the cosmos and even the cosmos as a whole, when we observe it, or when we observe as much of it as we can at one time, we see that there are certain things, certain systems that have a goal that they're moving towards. The solar system, for example, the planets are revolving around the sun. The sun is keeping them in orbit around itself and giving heat to the Earth, which the Earth needs for life to flourish. Um, and uh, so, uh, so on. So we could say that there is a purpose behind the solar system. There's a teleology within the solar system, or behind the solar system. So the fact that there is only one world um, is true, but it's not really relevant to the argument. The argument is not that uh, we've seen a lot of worlds that have been designed, so that ours must be designed too. That's not what William Paley, for example, was arguing. I think it's the fact that we see purpose in the world, in nature, which has behind it some sort of designing intelligence. It calls for that. It presupposes that there is a divine designer. And we'll have to wait for the third objection of Hume slash Philo in part 2 of this series. Thank you.